Hi, you might have heard that PMI has released PMBOK Guide 7th edition. In this video, I am sharing my opinion related to this PMBOK Guide 7th edition. To start with, I want to share three things which at a summary level caught my attention. The first thing is the 7th edition has moved from process-based standard to a principle-based standards. So it's like this. Many of the framework you might have studied, they start talking about what is the fundamental principle which guides that framework. Whereas the old PMBOK guide, say 6th edition and before, starts from talking about knowledge areas and processes and ultimately tells us this is a process, this takes some input, it generates some outputs. It gets to the doing very fast, and it's more about that this is how we get things done. Now, it sometimes also looks very prescriptive. People interpret it that these things has to be done, though the PMBOK Guide 6th edition was clearly saying that these processes are not prescriptive. You can definitely apply tailoring, but now PMI has taken more higher level view, and it's saying we are not telling you about the processes anymore. We are not telling you the details of how to do the things. We are not telling you how to record the risk. We are not telling you that you should have a risk register and probably these attributes might be there. We are just telling, okay, you might want to take care of uncertainties, and that's a good idea to take care of uncertainties. And if you do that, you achieve better outcome, and these are the possible outcomes. And this is how you can detect, are you taking care of uncertainties? So at an example level, I took a risk thread here. So it is not getting into the process and the prescription or the examples of it, and it is only staying at a very, very high level and telling us the principles which helps us in doing project management better. Yeah, that's the first shift you can see. The second shift is usually the new PMBOK guide comes in and it replaces the previous PMBOK guide, and we start focusing on the new guide and it gives all the information to us. This is not the case this time. The PMBOK Guide 6th edition may still holds value when it comes to a process-oriented approaches. And PMBOK Guide 7th edition is clearly saying the process-oriented approaches may be valued in some organization where they want to get little bit more details about how to do the things, and they can use the previous PMBOK guide for same. So in a way, PMBOK Guide 7th edition is not replacing PMBOK Guide 6th edition. It is adding on top of it. It is adding the thought process, the thinking mind on PMBOK Guide 6th edition. It is telling how should you think in order to solve the problem. So approaches, the ideas, the principles which guides project management are something which are there in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. That's the second difference. The third difference is the knowledge areas are gone in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. The performance domains has come down. So it's again refactoring the content to show more interrelationship, because knowledge area many times got interpreted that I need to focus on a one area and I will get the things done. Whereas actually everything was interrelated in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition as well. Here we are saying let's look from a performance domain perspective rather than the knowledge perspective, say stakeholder, say planning, and find out what all matters while doing stakeholder, while doing planning related stuff. Say communication may go along with the stakeholder community, some part of a communication may come along with the planning as well. So we focus from the performance domain space rather than from knowledge area space, and each performance domain talks about how they interact with each other, and how all these 8 performance domain comes together help us in achieving the project management. So these are the 3 core things which I can pick up from PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Now I get into little bit more details. The PMBOK Guide 7th edition has 2 sections. One is the project management standard and a guide to project management body of knowledge. Now let's go into these sections one by one. Each section has 3 lessons. Let's talk about the project management standards first. So it has the first lesson, which is an introduction, just describing, explaining some of the concepts and the terminology. So we can say that, okay, it gives us some introduction. The second one is the system for value delivery. That is a little bit interesting. It talks about what is value, how the overall organization come together, how various components of the organization, say project, portfolio, program, operations, a product, all comes together and delivers value, how the information flows between these things. So that's the another interesting thing which is covered in this lesson. It also talks about what are the areas need to be focused while doing project management. So PMBOK Guide 7th edition is not talking about the role of a project manager. It is talking about what matters in order to do a good project management. So it explains those 8 areas, and that's the another uniqueness you will see in the lesson 2. And it also talks about little bit in more details about product life cycle and show how possibly a project life cycle relates and comes inside the product life cycle. So that's the lesson 2 of project standard section. The lesson 3 has 12 principles of project management. So project standard sections lesson 3 takes us through the principles of project management. Now these principles are explained in this particular lesson. There is also some guidance to find out what kind of an outcome we can achieve by following those principles, and also have some sections explaining how do we measure how we are doing against those principles. So folks like principles like applying system thinking, taking care of uncertainties, focusing on collaboration and facilitation. So those kind of principles are there, and it tells us as possibly what outcome you get and how do you measure it. But it will not tell you how to implement it. It's more about like what we are trying to achieve and how do we know we are achieving it. How to figure that out, that the action of it, that is something is left on the section B, and also left beyond the project, the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. So this is the 3 sections of the project standard space. Now let's come to the second section, a guide to project management body of knowledge. Now the first lesson of the second section is all about performance domains. So all 8 performance domains are explained here. Now doing part is at a very summary level. So for example, when we are talking about planning, it will tell that we need to find out what activities need to be done, how do we perform those activities, how do we sequence them, and we get it done. It will never tell you the exact process of identifying activities, the possible attributes we capture in the activity list, the possible way of identifying dependency, the different types of dependency. Those kind of details are purposefully excluded from these 8 domains. So don't think getting the knowledge area level details which you saw in the 6th edition in these performance domain. Here you get a very summary level details, but if you understand all the 10 knowledge area, you will find this area very familiar. Yeah, you can relate to it. It's just a refactoring and refocusing of the content which happening here based on the performance domain. Now the lesson 2 of the guide part is all about tailoring. So we had tailoring in PMBOK Guide 6th edition also. In the each knowledge area, we start with the tailoring. Here you have a consolidated lesson on tailoring, and it is telling how possibly a tailoring needs to be done in the various domains. So all performance domains are discussed, and areas to tailor those particular performance domain is consolidated in this particular lesson. The final lesson is the one which is connecting this idea of project management to action, the doing part of a project management, which is not much elaborated in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, but the last section, which is called the models, methods, and artifacts, is something which is listing out some of the models like Tuckman ladder, conflict management model, methods like estimation, various estimation methods, meetings, and those kind of analytical technique like variance analysis and all are the methods, and the artifacts like your requirement document, work breakdown structure, user story, product backlog, those are all artifact parts. So they are listed at a summary level. It's kind of a glossary definition of it. You don't get a template for work breakdown structure or an example of a user story in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. You just come to know there is something called work breakdown structure. That's it. And then there is a table which relates that, okay, possibly WBS will be relating to planning. WBS may also relate to stakeholders. So all 8 performance domain comes as a column, and then you have a list of these is models, methods, and artifacts, and there is a cross signal which tells that, oh, this is the area possibly it works there. But how do you apply a particular method in a particular domain is something is not explained here. So say I'm doing a meeting, I'm doing a planning meeting, and I'm doing a monitoring meeting, or I'm doing a team level meeting. So meeting is meeting. So meeting might be relevant in a team space, the team meeting might be related in a planning space. But we may not talk about how this meeting might be different in these 2 particular space. That is left on the project manager or the reader to find it out. So in a way, keeping the content at a high level seems to be the goal of PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Always trying to remain at a place so it does not look like prescriptive, not giving any hint of a particular template, particular attribute, particular artifact related to the idea of doing project management, keeping those two things very, very separate. Now somebody may wonder, but ultimately I need to know, how do I apply? I need to know some template for my project charter. I need to know a template for my work breakdown structure. How do I find it out? Or is there anything PMI is doing to help me? So the answer is yes. So what they have done is they have created another digital platform, which they are saying PMI Standard Plus. And that platform can be used along with the PMBOK guide. So say you want to understand what is work breakdown structure because you were reading PMBOK Guide 7th edition. You log into PMI Standard Plus, Standards Plus the platform, and you search about work breakdown structure. You may get some videos, you may get some template, you may get some material which is coming from PMBOK Guide 6th edition probably, and the WBS standards and practice guides. All those content will be available to you. So it's like this. In order to know how to do it, a learner should go to PMI's Standards Plus platform. That's the recommendation for finding out your doing guidance. The only glitch is when you go to a PMI Standard Plus platform, you need to search, you need to know what you are looking for. There is no kind of a guided process that, okay, you are starting the project and initially you need a project charter and it should look like this, and then you need to talk about requirement and then requirement traceability, the metric should look like this. That kind of a flow and guidance is not there. You need to figure that out yourself. So it's like this. One may not be able to read or understand project management by looking at PMBOK Guide 7th editions and the additional content. But once you have an experience in project management and you want to sharpen that, you want to understand the detailed nitty-gritties of it, then I find the PMI Standard Plus platform is the marvelous platform. The advantage is it is kept digital, so the new areas, new techniques, new methods will keep getting added as they get discovered or as they become popular in the project management space. So that's the thing which they have done. So in order to find out the complete understanding of project management, one has to look at PMBOK Guide 7th edition and PMI's Standards Plus platform. The PMI Standard Plus platform majorly coming from PMBOK Guide 6th edition. So if you are a new learner, you may read PMBOK Guide 7th edition along with the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. And I would recommend you may read PMBOK Guide 6th edition first, and then you read a PMBOK Guide 7th edition in order to understand the thinking and doing together well. So that's what I feel about the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Now, many of you who might be preparing for PMP exam and may wonder, okay, how this thing impacts me? Like, am I going to test it? Am I going to get tested on something which is written on PMBOK Guide 7th edition, like 12 principles of project management? That's not the case. The principles of project management were already in place when you were looking at exam content outline. The way of thinking was already there, and there is a no probability of getting a question which is just asking, is this the principle of project management or not? Because that is not the PMP exam content outline is designed. So the PMP exam is based on PMI's published document called exam content outline. The exam content outline is too much focused on the domain, tasks, and enabler. So it's more about doing. How do you demonstrate your project management knowledge and competency in a given situation? So the question will talk about something which is happening in the project, and you need to find out the option which is more linked to doing part of doing project management. So what you need to do, you need to continue your preparation using the exam content outline oriented preparation material. If you are part of PMI's ATP program, like ATP's client, so authorized training provider, like we are the authorized training provider, we do get material from PMI. So now PMI provides their education provider a separate booklet, which is primarily meant for exam. So the PMBOK guide and PMP exam relationship is becoming more and more weak. PMI has been telling that PMBOK guide is the PMP exam is not based on PMBOK guide. It, in a way, say 5 years ago, I can say if I prepare PMP PMBOK guide, I'm done with my PMP exam preparation, because the content was too much kind of overlapping. The exam content outline and the PMBOK content was pretty much overlapping, but now it's not the case. The exam content outline has their distinct focus. They expect you to understand people management, agile way of working, a cost related way of working, project management, traditional project management way of working in detail, which is not covered in the PMBOK guide 7th edition, but yes, it is well covered in PMBOK guide 6th edition, and maybe you need to pick up some of the agile material beyond that. So if you are following the authorized education training provider content, I suggest you focus that area, their material, as a main reference material for your PMP exam preparation. I do believe if you focus on studying agile related content as well as a PMBOK guide 6 related content, it can strengthen your project management fundamentals, which will help you in getting your ECO's exam content outline level work done at a faster pace. So I don't see any change happening in the PMP exam because of this new PMBOK guide 7th edition release. Now, there could be at some point in time, we as an education provider may also start explaining you why this question was right, because it relates well with project management principle XXX. So I do see that kind of an explanation and correlationship may emerge in next 3-4 months time. And by that time, I do anticipate even the PMI's the content preparation book, which you get from PMI's platform, may also start adapting some of this principal part, but that will be a gradual process. And in a way, that's not a big change. Indirectly, that all ideas are well covered in the current exam preparation content material. So I spoke about PMBOK guide 7th edition. I also looked into the impact on the PMP exam. If you have some suggestion or a sharing related to your PMBOK guide 7th edition understanding, feel free to comment in our comment area.